Welcome back to another live edition of the Top Dog Podcast. And listen, who's this guy? Oh, that's Harrison. So I'm just one of your triumvirate of podcast hosts here. I'm Dan Kiley. That's Harrison Reno, and that is Kobe. You can say your own name. I was going to let you say it, but whatever. But we're back. Hey, gentlemen, this is the last podcast we're doing before it's game week, officially game week, Harrison. And when the season ends, you feel like this is never going to get here. And then it gets here so fast. It flew by for me.
We're 10 days away, boys. Dan, I told Dan to open the show tonight, and he messed up the name. I think he was trying to talk fast like me, and he even put the talk at the end.
I can't do it. Like, you talk so fast, and I was trying to do it. I was trying to mimic you, but I couldn't do it. So I screwed it up. Top Dog Talk Podcast.
Last week's intro was better because Dan was like authentically him. But I was like, after watching it, because I was watching it live as I was driving back, and I was like, fuck it. Tonight, let Dan open the show.
It's not Dan.
We went curse word free last week without me here. Who would have thought? I come back on, and I'm immediately letting it rip.
It's all right.
Yeah. Kobe, how you doing this Wednesday evening?
I'm good, man. We're just living life, Air's buzzing around Athens. I'm excited. I was looking. We were talking about it at work. I was like, man, I'm so excited for week 0. Get some college football in, kind of get that under the belt, watch some different games, whatever. I pulled up that schedule. Man, it's skin and bones, fellas. To call it a weekend of college football, if you're not watching the kickoff game in Dublin, you're not watching a lot. So I'm excited for that at least, but I don't know. It really – I feel like the only reason now that they're doing the week 0 anymore is because they've signed up for this game in Dublin, and they have to give the teams time to come back and not just walk straight into another game. So I don't know. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts. Thoughts on week 0. You like it because it gets you college football quicker, or do you wish that they just all played them next weekend? Let's just skip this week completely. It doesn't make any sense. We'll start with you, Dan.
I don't really have an opinion one way or another. I mean, like, football is football, and I'm going to watch it. I'm a degenerate that way.
Yeah.
I'll probably end up watching some of the Kansas-Fresno State game.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't bother me. Who's the Dublin game?
It's Iowa State and Kansas State.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. Midwest people in Ireland. I got it. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Harrison, your thoughts on it?
Next year, it's Michigan versus Western Michigan and Germany, boys. Just a barn burner, absolute barn burner to kick off the year. Kobe, I don't mind week 0. I don't recognize it as the opening of college football. Like, when I'm saying college football is back, that's going to be next week. Week 1, when 100%, 99% of the world – not the world, but the country is playing college football, not the 2% that are playing week 0. But I will say this. The best week 0 they've ever had was when they had Florida, Miami play on week 0. They need a marquee game, maybe go get a new blood or blue blood to go play one of those rivalry games on week 0. And I think it brings some juice to the overall week. Makes you actually look forward to it rather than having Iowa State, Kansas State, and then a bunch of just mid-league teams battling it out. But go ahead.
I was going to say that I think it's crazy, and I'll have to read into it because I know the Big 12 can do this from time to time, and I've never understood it. And so maybe I have to read into it a little bit more before I call it dumb. But I'm curious if they're counting this as a conference game out there, because I know that sometimes they can count games where they even play like an in-conference opponent, not as a conference game for the year.
I'd assume it's a conference game. It would make sense for it to be a conference game. I don't know why they wouldn't make one, but I would assume it is. Because that only adds to the intrigue of the matchup out there in Ireland. But before we get too far off the rails, we do have hot topics.
Fair enough. I'll let it be.
We got 3 of them tonight. Dan texted me one last minute as a surprise hot topic. We're going to leave that for last. Kobe's the only one that doesn't know what it is, so I'm going to let him lead it off with that one. But first, we'll go to the first one. If you could add one player in the country to this Georgia roster, who and why? And Jeremiah Smith is off limits. We might even take Caleb Downs off limits, unless, obviously we could all have the same 2 players. So get creative with this one. Dan, who did you pick? Or did I actually just steal your thunder and put your pick
go ahead
off?
and go to Kobe. Let me reset.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question on the fact that you really have to. I think there's some knee-jerk reactions. Like you may think a quarterback or 2 here or there. I think that when I'm going across the board, I'm trying to think of a good outside linebacker. I feel like that would be just a great addition for the team. Problem is I haven't done a great job in my portal work this year. Can we go back to Dan?
I got one.
Dan,
I'll go ahead and bring the
Harrison,
heat.
why don't you start us off hot? That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll bring the heat, and maybe we should put this guy off limits. But give me Dylan Stewart. I mean,
okay, Dylan Stewart.
Talk about a need in this Georgia football team. You need a bona fide edge rusher, and Dylan Stewart. I don't know if we've seen a freshman season from an edge rusher quite like his. Obviously, Colin Simmons at Texas had a good year, but Dylan Stewart was just a different beast, man. I mean, I can't believe that not only did schools come after him, but I mean he held on over there at South Carolina. And I'd be willing to venture South Carolina didn't offer him the most amount of money that he was offered this offseason, and he stuck to it. He stuck with the program. Shout out to Dylan Stewart. So far, seems to be like a program guy, the type of guy you want in college football because he didn't go chase the bag.
I agree. And a huge building block into why they're going to have such a successful year this year, possibly in South Carolina.
Who y'all got? I know.
Dan, go ahead, Dan.
I think I did Dan dirty.
So, you were talking about a linebacker, and this is a name that we were talking about earlier, Harrison, is the linebacker out of Texas, and I just lost his name. Hold on. Anthony Hill Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony Hill Jr. would be a nice addition to this team. I think he fits what we do defensively. I think he would be a great addition. I was going to go with Jeremiah Love because he's the best running back in college football. But I really think Nate Frazier has a chance to be really, really good this year, and that would really eat into his carries. And I think he's good enough to be the bell cow. So I'm not going to go Jeremiah Love. I'll go Hill Jr. out of Texas, the linebacker.
I really like that pick because that's 2 birds with 1 stone. Like Hill, he plays off-ball linebacker, and that's he's a typical inside linebacker, but Texas uses him off the edge so much that he's almost like an edge rusher. I like that pick, Dan. To be honest, I completely forgot about Anthony Hill. Kobe, what say you?
So I was torn. The name that keeps coming to my mind is not necessarily, I think, a position of need, but it's someone that we were in on during the offseason with the portal, and it's Eric Singleton Jr. Not that I think we're just desperate in need for a receiver, but I think top-end speed like that, I mean, the more speed you have, the more speed kills. The only other person I can think of that would be a little bit more applicable would be like LT Overton, somebody that we were in on very heavily coming out of high school. And, to me, he would fit a mold in that 6 technique kind of outside linebacker body that could help with a little bit of depth piece in a defensive line that's maybe not as proven as they have been in years past, not necessarily not as good, but just a little lack of proof in what they are.
Yeah, Dan and I, when Dan proposed this hot topic to me earlier, the thing that kind of came to my mind, Kobe, and we were talking about this, is how quarterback wasn't even the first position in our mind in terms of where we think we'll go to add to Georgia. And that's not really anything to say about Gunner. It's just more so this quarterback group, there's a lot of unproven guys. There's not a guy that's returning that has 32 starts or whatever, has all the numbers. It's a lot of guys who have maybe 10, 12 starts. And, when I asked Dan, I was like, is there a quarterback in college football, aside from March Manning, that's if you had the Georgia roster, you're I'm putting a future pick, Georgia's going to be the national champion. And Dan, I mean, I'm looking at the list now, and I feel like I missed this. I should have said it just to see where you're at. But I didn't even think about Lenore Sellers. I think Lenore Sellers would probably have to be on that list of if he's on Georgia's roster, you're probably feeling pretty confident about where Georgia's at going into the year.
Yeah, and the name that I came up with, if we were taking Arch off the table, was Nussmeier, and I would take him over a guy named. I've never been really impressed by Cade Klubnik, and he may have a great season, and he may prove me wrong, and I may look really, really silly by saying that, but I mean, at least Nuss is proven, and he's got some playing time under his belt, and they were relatively successful with him under center at LSU, and I think Georgia's roster, top to bottom, is better than LSU's right now, and I'm sure there will be people that would argue that point, but I do think so.
I would say you both make, in my mind, very strong points for two players that are the two opposite sides of the quarterback coin in college football right this second. I think Nussmeier, someone who is typically going to stand in the pocket and be your prototypical man that is going to deliver the football in timing routes and big-time arm talent. And then Lenore Sellers, who also adds the mobility aspect to his game. I would say maybe both of them would be an upgrade in that particular category of their game. But like you're saying, I just think that it's just so hard because, like you're saying, Gunner is unproven and all these quarterbacks across the country are unproven. You hate to trade away somebody that just works. And I think that's the hard thing is, 3-4 years ago, yeah, would you maybe have taken 5 or 6 quarterbacks to Stetson Bennett? Maybe, on paper. But when the lights turned on and the moment mattered, you had number 13 back there. I felt as good as anybody.
Slinging it
in the clutch. There was
in the
clutch, there was no one better. I mean, when he was playing at Georgia in 22. I mean, you go look at the drive versus Ohio State. You go look at the drive. I mean, heck, even versus Alabama in 21, like the third and whatever it was to 8 or second and 18 to AD Mitchell, like that was big time.
So like you're saying, you hate to sell somebody short on paper what they may prove to you and when the lights are on. And I think that's what I'm excited about for this Georgia team maybe the most is I think that maybe during talking season they're not as pretty as old teams, but I'm not sure that they're not more pissed off than some old teams as well.
Good point. And we'll touch on that here in a little bit. We got a second hot topic. What is your favorite type of offensive play to watch? Now, Dan, are you talking just like in terms like a play?
Well, I can tell you mine, and then that way you guys will understand what I'm talking about. My favorite type of play to see a team run is the old play action where the quarterback hides the ball and just fakes everybody out of their shoes and then just has a free runner down the middle of the field and just dots them up for an easy touchdown. Because when that is done correctly, oh my gosh, it makes the other team look so foolish. David Green was a master of it. The play that I saw was the Aaron Murray versus Ole Miss. That's what made me think of this. It's just perfection to me. Like when you see a quarterback just execute that flawlessly and then dot them up for a touchdown, I mean, that's one of my favorite plays in all of offensive football. I just love it.
And we're gonna play back and forth. Me and Dan here. The fake punt is always a really nice play. But I was thinking like 2012, 2013, Mike Bobo, just a power toss. You're pulling the guard, you're lead blocking with the fullback, the running backs, 8 yards deep getting the ball. And by the time they hit the line of scrimmage, they were running full speed. Just watching corners and safeties get absolutely annihilated by a fullback and a pulling guard, I mean, it just never gets old. Like, here's two guys that play the same sport and have a common goal and 100 pounds, 120 pounds difference between the two of them. And you're asking this guy to take on this block, shed the block, and make the tackle with someone like Todd Gurley running at them. They're at a disadvantage from the jump, but it is pretty, and I wish a man can wish. I think it would still work if you ran it 3 or 4 times a game. You throw a little walk on in at fullback and let him just go annihilate somebody. Worth giving it a shot.
Took a little bit of the thunder here. I was gonna go with counter. Anything counter. I mean, when Georgia was at its best in 21, when they got counter licked up and blocked well, it was some of the most beautiful runs they had. And I wish they'd run a little bit more of it down the stretch here going into the year. It feels like that was when we had Brent Rollins on. That was one of the biggest talking points was the run game had become too zone heavy. There wasn't gap scheme as much. And he was like, he wanted to see more balance. When Georgia was running counter, that's when they're at their best. I mean, seeing James Cook, Zamir White, those guys run counter was absolutely beautiful. And it also helped when, you could pull a Broderick Jones or you could pull, whoever among that offensive line, a Darnell Washington, just across the formation to go block counter. It was fun to watch. I think any type of design in the run game like that is fun to watch. I know I don't have, what's it called? In terms of passing, it's hard because there's so many different concepts. But man, when you block like a power or a counter run, it's just so beautiful to watch.
So what pays the bills?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Now, certainly will in 25 for Georgia. Third and final hot topic. Now, this one's a little bit of a surprise from Dan. I think I know Dan's answer just because of when he sent me this question. Kobe, you're up first here. We're going to put you solo screen. We're going to see what Kobe does. Do you let your dogs clean your plate when you're done eating?
Me personally, no. I do not let my dogs clean my plate when I'm done eating. Katie will let the dogs lick it clean on occasion, like if she has yogurt or something. But typically, my wife's a pretty big stickler about like all the foods your dog's not supposed to have and not wanting her to eat something human based. So no, I can't say that they're eating off the table.
See, I don't give them the plate to lick either, but I like if we're eating roast beef or something and there's a little bit left over, I'll give them a piece of fat or something off my plate. Like I'll give it to them. But no, I ain't letting them lick the plate. That's what the dishwasher's for.
Well, you run that son of a gun in the dishwasher after they
Either way,
it, but
either way, yeah.
It just to me, I guess I did it as a kid, and I just continued to do it. And then I had somebody tell me that's absolutely disgusting that I would let a dog eat off a plate that I eat off of. I'm like, do you not wash it? I mean, I don't know. It blew my mind that some people feel like that's absolutely disgusting that you would let your dog lick your plate. Never bothered me until that conversation came up. So I was just wondering where you guys' take was. I just do not feel like it's disgusting. I can understand your point of view, Kobe, where you don't necessarily want the dog eating human food. There's a lot of people who feel adamant that dogs should not eat human food. There are certain things that we don't let our dogs eat, but I mean, for the most part, if I have some scraps or something, my wife is big about don't let them lick the plate, but go put it in their bowl because she wants them to eat out of their bowl. So if you have leftover food or whatever, but like today I had spaghetti for dinner, so there's sauce on the plate, and I put it down, and Sky just tore that up, and Pixie was somewhere else. But it doesn't. I don't know. It just didn't bother me. So I was wondering your take.
Oh yeah, I was curious when he sent me it. I was like, all right, I have a feeling I know what Dan's answer is going to be. But I was curious about the backstory if he got heat for it or not. Anyways, 20 minutes of hot topics, a little bit longer than we wanted, but we got probably about 40 minutes left of just all Georgia talk. We'll go here first before we go into kind of the main thing of the show. We had some news this week, and it feels like it's never ending. The college football playoff. We've only had 1 year of it with 12 teams, and we're already talking about expansion. We've been talking about expansion for the last 6 to 9 months. The latest proposal, as reported by Ross Dellinger over at Yahoo Sports, was the Big Ten has floated a 24 or 28 team playoff model. Now, with both of these models, conference championship games would be no more. You would have essentially playing games for teams that are on the bubble. And basically, the whole reason for this is they want to get rid of these mid-tier bowl games. They want to make these games in November, late regular season games in November that may have teams now that don't have anything else to play for meaningful again. And I guess under a 24 to 28 team model, they are proposing 7 automatic bids for each of the SEC and the Big Ten, 5 for the Big 12 and the ACC, 2 for the top group of 5 programs, and 2 at-large selections. Now, before we get into Kirby Smart's take on this, gentlemen, where y'all at on a 24-28 team college football playoff? I think we're all in agreement here, but I don't think we've ever talked expansion with Kobe.
You want me to start it?
Go ahead.
You can start it.
Okay. I mean, it will be what kills college football eventually. Will be a pretty like blanket, take it to the bank statement of the further and further you get away from what makes college football special, and that is regionality of games, rivalries, and games matter. Each individual games matter. I watched, and don't get me wrong, I like the fact that you're allowed a hiccup now. I think that's perfectly fair and fine. But I watched something on SEC Network the other day. It was talking about the SEC in the 90s and how many of those teams were a loss, 11-1. 11-1 and got left out of the national championship, 11-1 and weren't voted in at being the national champion. And in reality, yes, losing that one game did cost them a national championship that wouldn't cost them that chance today. But I just don't believe going 8-4, you're talking about with that kind of expansion, you'll have somebody sneak in at 7-5. You're telling me winning 7 football games should allow you to have the opportunity to play for a national championship possibly? I mean, you just get into all kind of new details in game planning for the season. Why even show up to play a difficult game in October? If all you have to do is win 8 football games, what incentivizes me to play a Alabama, a Oregon, Ohio State? Well, the loss won't matter as much. The win doesn't matter as much either. That's the problem is, the loss doesn't hurt you like it once did, but the win doesn't jolt you up like it once did either. It's just another game. 12 already was a lot for me. And I'll die on that hill that 12 is still a lot. I think doubling that would be laughable at best.
Well, and you talked about the win would jump you up. And what does it even matter if it does? Because you still have a bunch of more games that you're going to have to play. There's no incentive for being a top 4 team or anything like that. I think it's ridiculous because I can't think of ever in the history of NCAA football where a team outside the top 10 had a chance to win a national title. The difference between 1, 2, 3, and 4 and then the rest of the field is usually pretty significant. I know Georgia lost last year to Notre Dame. I get it. And you could point to that all you want to and be like, Georgia was 4 seed and they lost to Notre Dame. Okay, I hear you. But we also lost our quarterback. So, I mean, there are always going to be caveats to everything. But, who's usually around 11, 12, 13, 14 in that range? You're talking about like a Boise State or a Rutgers or a Syracuse or something like that. They're not beating Ohio State. They're just not. So what the hell are we doing? And, something I've told Harrison a long, long time ago is follow the money and you'll get your answer. And that's all this is. It's a money grab. This is an opportunity for people to put more money in their pockets. And maybe it's going to be needed to pay these kids money now. And maybe that's where this is coming from. I just think it's laughable to use your term, Kobe. It's a joke. It really is. Because if you go to 24 teams, there's no world where the 24th ranked team in the country is going to win a national title. That's never going to happen. This isn't basketball. You can't have a guy stand in the corner, get hot for 3 and go for 30 and upset Tennessee. That's not going to happen. I mean,
I pulled up the
I'm going to
standings.
get carried away, so I'll just say it's stupid. I don't agree with it at all, not even a little bit.
I pulled up the standings of the SEC from last year. And I'm gonna list y'all the top 7 teams. Y'all tell me which of these 7 teams y'all think could have won a national title last year, could have beaten Ohio State. All right, we got Texas number 1, Georgia at number 2, Tennessee at number 3, Bama, LSU, South Carolina, Texas A&M.
I mean, you're cherry picking SEC teams, and I think that they have a chance to be competitive. I'm not saying win, but they could be competitive.
Yeah.
but just do the final rankings of the top 25 last year. Do that because that will illustrate the point further. Like I think South Carolina was one of the hotter teams last year, and they would have been competitive. Not saying that they would have beat Ohio State, but it would have been a competitive game. But my point is, if you go to the top 25 from the end of last year, if you start looking at teams 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 in that range, a lot of those teams are not going to be competitive. Look, Arizona State,
they were competitive with Texas, but yeah, Miami,
no shot.
Yeah, they got beaten first round. Miami, I don't think. I mean, maybe you make it an interesting game. Ole Miss is a team that if they got hot, maybe they make things interesting. I don't know. I think that's probably a second or third round exit. And third round probably be the best. South Carolina, I can see what you're saying there. If they got hot, they'd be a scary team. But here we go. BYU, nope. Iowa State, nope. Missouri, hell no. Illinois, really? Syracuse, sorry,
sneaky,
Fran, no.
Sneaky team.
Sneaky, but I don't think so. Army, sorry, troops, no. Colorado,
hell no.
UNLV without Sluka, nope. And Memphis.
So I guess my point, and if you pull that back up 1 second, my point in looking at, I would say what I would share with a lot of college football fans, if you'll scroll up just a little bit, those teams right there near that bubble, Miami, Ole Miss, even Alabama, South Carolina, they all had opportunities to win football games down the stretch of the season that had they won, they would be in the college football playoffs. They all had those opportunities. Alabama went to Oklahoma and laid an egg. One of the worst eggs I've ever seen Alabama football ever lay in my lifetime, which has been pretty much the entire Saban dynasty. So obviously that's not fair, but I mean, they look inept. And I don't think, and that's not fair. Ole Miss went to Florida and lost. I mean, plenty of examples. Miami lost a game that they had no business losing.
Georgia got their ass whipped to Ole Miss.
And honestly, Georgia, had they lost the Georgia Tech game, we'd have been on the bubble. If you'd have lost to Georgia Tech and lost to Texas, I wouldn't have expected us to be in. And I think that's the thing is like, it means something to be in the college football playoffs. It means that you did things in the season to earn the right to get there. It doesn't just mean like, oh, well, we had a couple rough games. Like, you know, I don't know. And maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe obviously the money is there possibly, but I would say a majority of people would already think 12 is too many.
What I take issue with is the comments of there's too many meaningless games in November and December. Who told Auburn that Iron Bowl was a meaningless, or that game versus Alabama was a meaningless game? Who told Oklahoma that their game before with Alabama was a meaningless game? Like, there is no such thing in the regular season a meaningless game. Yeah, I'm sure if you're 2-10 Florida State, you probably hate the season. You want it to be done, but man, you can still go out there and ruin other people's season. Same thing with the bowl games. I get it. People don't want to play in those. Players don't want to play in them. That's fine. Get rid of them. But don't do it at the expense of your regular season and your playoff model. And that brings me to Kirby Smart. He was asked about it on Tuesday, and we're going to react to this. Y'all haven't heard this quote. This will be the first time y'all hear the quote. He said, and I quote, "I'm probably like most people in the majority to be able to expand the playoffs if it's done the right way in terms of giving more teams the opportunity. I think that's what the fan bases want." Now, end quote. I get what he's saying. He thinks fan bases probably want to see more teams get opportunities. But that doesn't mean give the ones undeserving of the opportunities. If we go to a 25 to a 2018 playoff, there's not 28 teams in college football that can win a national title. So what opportunity are we giving them? The chance to go play in a meaningless game where Army's going to get boat raced by whoever?
You're gambling that the more things you slap college football playoff on, the more viewers are liable to tune in to those games. And the problem is all it's going to take is a couple stinkers and people are going to quit watching. I mean, the whole reason, I guess, like to Dan's point, the whole reason the first round of March Madness is so popular is because you're sitting on the edge of your seat hoping that someone gets hot and upsets a high seed. Not everybody watches to watch the 1 seeds beat the 16 seeds by 40. Everybody's hoping for that one team that throws the upset in there, and that's what keeps them coming back. But like Dan's saying, unlike college football, it's a lot easier for 2 or 3 guys to get hot on a basketball court than it is for 11 players on both sides of the ball to operate for a full 60-minute game and beat someone. I mean, that's a whole different thing. Like you may be an Army and you may have a scripted drive and go straight down the field and score the first time against Georgia. But come halftime, come adjustments, come all that, the chances of you sustaining that upset is lower. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Well, and then also whenever you talk about this stuff, there's always unintended consequences, right? So if we all agree, and I think we do, that Ohio State was the best team in the country last year. I mean, they won the national title, so to give them their flowers. But who did they play in the national title? I don't even remember.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. All right, so so now you have now you have Ohio State playing a game where they can't lose that game, right? So let's just say they're playing BYU, right? Now you have a guy like Caleb Downs or Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith goes out, runs a slant, twists his ankle, real bad high ankle sprain. Now he can't play, right? So Ohio State's not going to lose that game, but now you're not going to get the best product in the next round. And I know injuries are part of the game, and you can't really plan for them. But when you get an injury in a game that doesn't matter, like that shouldn't be played, that's when I have a real problem with it, because I want to see the best product versus the best product, and let's see who the best team really is. I don't want to see a team banged up from playing a bull crap game have to try to win a national title with half of their roster.
And here's the other thing. It feels like all of these expansion proposals, frankly, this one more than any, is they feel like this is the solution to getting rid of, this team shouldn't have been left out argument. There's always going to be people getting left out in people's opinions. That's not going away. Whether it's 24, 28, 12, 16, 4, 128, there's going to be somebody left out that you don't like. Like, stop trying to fix the who's in, who's out argument. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes the week-to-week in college football interesting. That's why people tune in. This is stupid. I hope it's not serious. I hope the adults in the room are actually going to be adults and do the right thing, because this isn't what we want. And I get it. I think Kirby didn't really want to give an opinion to this question in terms of putting his favor in either ball, in either court. I think Greg Sankey has told the conference to lay out on these playoff conversations, let him deal with it. But to me, I hope this is disingenuous of a proposal from the Big Ten and just their way of trying to get what they want at a much lower number, which it may be. But 24 to 2018 playoff, see ya. I mean, what are we doing? That's stupid. Gentlemen, let's talk about something that actually matters and something that I think in this era of college football makes it all the more interesting. Georgia starts their regular season in 10 days. They just finished fall camp. I think they actually concluded. I think technically, I say fall camp ended last Saturday. There's no more scrimmages. It's over. They're now getting ready for game week. I believe they start actually preparing for Marshall on Thursday or Friday. And then it's just a regular game week at this point. The narrative, I think, that's been developing over the last 3 or 4 months has been that Georgia's kind of getting a little overlooked. And I know there's going to be people that come, in here, or whoever's talking about that narrative say, oh, they're not overlooked. That's just, y'all just want to create a narrative. But I do think it's fair. Now, I get it. There's a lot of teams that want to be the preseason number 5 team in the AP poll. There's a lot of people. For a long time, Georgia would have killed to be in this position, say 20 years ago. But when you look at the national media, when you look at the betting odds, there seems to be a clear pecking order as to who the national title contenders. There's Texas, there's Penn State, there's Clemson. Those are the trendy picks. And then you get to the Ohio States and the Georgias, the programs that have been on the top of the mountain recently, but have lost talent, a lot of it over the last few years. And I get it. There are questions about Georgia with this team more than there have been in years past. But is it fair to say that this team's being overlooked?
You go first, Dan. I've been going first a lot tonight. Go ahead.
I think there's reasons, right? I think there's always reasons that teams get preferential treatment over others. I mean, and those reasons can change. Like Alabama was Alabama with Nick Saban, so they were always going to be in the top 2 or 3 regardless because they just assumed they're going to be great. I think Georgia kind of got a little bit of that love shown to them the last couple of years, and I mean for obvious reasons, and they were really, really good, and I get all that. But when you have a returning quarterback that's pretty good, you tend to be ranked pretty high, right? Texas has got Arch Manning, who, even though he wasn't a starter, he did start, 2 or 3 games last year, and he played in meaningful moments. And I think the majority of the people in the country would argue that Arch is probably the best quarterback in college football this coming up season. And I don't think that's crazy talk. I think it's fair to say that. You have Drew Aller at Penn State. Whether you like him or not, he was productive and he did a good job and he won a lot of football games. And I think people have a lot of respect for him. Cade Klubnik maybe wasn't everything that he was hyped up to be his first couple of years, but again, another returning quarterback who a lot of people have confidence in. So that's 3 of your top 4 teams right there. Returning quarterbacks. You said Ohio State is up there. Ohio State does not have a returning quarterback, but they have Julian Sayin, who a lot of people are really, really high on, so that's obvious. Why would Georgia get bumped down? Well, to me, quarterback means everything, and they have a guy in Gunnar Stockton who, outside of the Georgia space, a lot of people don't really know a lot about him, nor do they care to know a lot about him. So it's just the lazy box score scouting type thing where they're just like, he's not really that good. And you know what? Maybe they end up being right. Who knows? But I think that's probably one of the main reasons why they are where they are. Whether you like Carson Beck or not, if Carson Beck was still the quarterback here at Georgia, the national media would probably have them higher than 5 because he's coming back, whether that's warranted or not. That's neither here nor there. But I think having a quarterback that people know coming back is going to elevate your program in the preseason rankings.
100%.
Toby, I feel like if Beck was back, he'd be probably a top 3 program right now.
I think in the media's eyes, I mean, every bit of Miami's preseason ranking reflects the fact that he is that quarterback. I mean,
Right.
there's no other massive reason that Miami's just made this historic jump from a 10-2 team last year to be a preseason favorite. I think of also the media likes trends. I mean, we all do, right? We all look for trends in our lives. We look for trends in teams. Statistically speaking, Ohio State won the national championship last year. They don't return the quarterback. They don't return some of their production. Back-to-back champions just don't happen that often. Obviously we were able to accomplish that. A lot had to go our way. I mean, in the 2022 season, we were a fantastic football team. In the 2021 season, we were a fantastic football team. But a lot had to go our way in both seasons to make that happen. And I'm not sure now that it's expanded to 12 that you have as much room for those Ohio State games where the kick goes wide left to end it. I mean, those are just those close games that if they just go the other way, you're sitting at the house. And I look at the trends for Clemson. They returned their quarterback, and all of their young talent is a year older. Their 2 receivers that were such good freshmen last year are a year older. Drew Aller and the Penn State team get some new receiving help and a new defensive coordinator that people are very, very high on. Obviously won the national championship at Ohio State last year. And then, like you're saying, I would say Ohio State, they would tell you probably took a step back. I don't know. I mean, maybe at the running back position. I don't know as a whole, but I mean, they still have Jeremiah Smith. They're still going to be loaded on the outside. I know they lost a lot of productivity on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive line, which is kind of hard to overcome. But, all in all for the Dogs, I think that, like you're saying, being at 5, I'm happy with it. I think that it feeds a narrative for Kirby that people have questions about you, and that's fine. If you were picking me and feeling good about me in August, September, then before a game's been played, it's just tough. I always have never liked preseason polls. It just is. It's a guess about like who is this team? Who could they be? Could Penn State be the best team in the country? Yeah, sure, they could. Will they be? I'm not so
Historically, they
confident.
won't.
Yeah, I saw Josh Pate did the video like this week or sometime with James Franklin. Like, can Kirby Smart win the big game? Now he can. Can Ryan Day win the big game? Now he has. James Franklin is the next guy on that list of, historically speaking, he has never been able to win the big game. He's always crumbled. He's always lost them. And, I mean, I'll tell you right now, not to put the squeeze on a man, but if you're Penn State and this has been what 10-plus years of James Franklin has accumulated to this season, if you don't win it all this year, you're going to be looking around going, where's our ceiling with this guy?
Well, also, if you look at the floor that they had before he got there, you may it's dangerous though. Like Georgia did it with Mark Richt, right? I mean, if you look at with Mark Richt, he was here, and there were a lot of people that are extremely nervous going to get Kirby Smart. They're saying, "Hey, listen, we're giving up a guy who's winning 10 games every single year, and look, we weren't so hot before he got here." So this might not be a good decision. Hey, it worked out wonderfully for Georgia, and they're really happy. Penn State wasn't the Penn State of old when they hired James Franklin, and he's elevated them back to where every single fall they're competitive and they play meaningful games at the end of the year. At some point, you're right, you're going to have to win the game, but I think another name that you could lump into there is Dan Lanning, right? Dan Lanning's done an amazing job out there at Oregon, but is he ready to take that next step too? So, and my last point on this is we're 5, not 15. So, like, some people should just calm down.
Gentlemen, I got a question for you. All right. We're going to give you 3 coaches in terms of who's going to break the seal, because it feels like the last 3 or 4 years it's been about coaches breaking the seal in terms of winning the national championship. You had Kirby Smart do it. You had Jim Harbaugh do it. You had Ryan Day just do it. I'm going to give you 3 names, and these are 3 rosters that are all similarly, I guess, viewed upon. You have James Franklin, Dan Lanning, and Steve Sarkisian. If you had to place money down for who gets it done to win their first national title this year as a head coach, which one's y'all taking?
Out of those 3 this year, I think I'm taking Steve.
3.
I think I'm taking Texas and Steve Sarkisian. I think would be where my money would lie. I'm that unconfident that James Franklin performs in big time situations, and maybe adding the defensive coordinator adds a whole new wrinkle to the way he coaches. But he historically seems to panic in those big games. And that's from a fan looking in. I mean, I'm not saying whatever. He just seems to panic, where I feel like Sark has still been very methodical, even in that game against Washington when they were in the playoffs, 2 or 3 years ago with Quinn. I mean, it came down to a 50-50 ball at the end of the game. So, like you're saying, I just think.
Yeah, real quick, because I know Dan's had to hop on this, and I over here I dug up these stats. All right, listen to this. I just pulled up James Franklin, Steve Sarkisian, Dan Lanning's records versus top 10 teams, which I think is going to be the biggest drawback that you have against these coaches. Dan Lanning has the best record versus top 10 teams. He's 4-4. James Franklin, he's 4-20 against top 10 teams. He drops to 1-15 against top 5 teams at Penn State. Then you go to Steve Sarkisian. Overall, Steve Sarkisian has a 5-17 record versus top 10 teams. At Texas, he's 1-3. I mean, all 3 of these coaches have, other than Dan Lanning, who's 500 against top 10 teams, just haven't shown the consistent ability to get the job done. And now we're going into the year where it's like, all right, those are the 3 coaches that are the favorite picks to be the head coach that gets their first national title this year. They're going to have to break the seal. They're going to have to do what Kirby did and, slay the proverbial dragon, which for them, it's just beating a top 10 opponent, or maybe probably 2 or 3 of them.
I think I would give Sark a little grace because some of that record was accumulated with teams that were not
True.
competitive.
True.
And this is his 4th year at Texas. Is that right? 3rd or 4th year?
I think it's 4th or 5th. I forget.
Yeah. But my point is he's had an opportunity to build that roster. And Kirby was successful without having his full roster. And, lost national championship game. But then once he had an opportunity to have his entire roster, he goes on and wins the national championship game. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, Sark has this roster at Texas now. So I think this is and Texas wasn't humming on all cylinders when he got there. So I think he's done a good job. I'm not a Texas hater, nor am I a Texas apologist. I think what he's done at Texas is he's done a good job. And I think he's got the roster that he wants right now. And I think this year will be telling. I think this is the first year we could really judge him.
Well, I mean, this year, the past 2 seasons, right? He has been building it, and riding with Quinn. And finally, now I feel like you're saying all the talent he could ever want is all over that roster.
Yes.
If you can't get it done with Arch, the quarterback recruit of the last 6 years, basically, you went from the quarterback recruit for the past 6 years to the next the quarterback, 2 perfect ranked recruits. If you can't get it done with them, it is time to kind of look in the mirror because it's not the roster's fault. It's not a lack of talent. I think that, like you're saying, I think for them it would be the year that they will be as good as they want to be, and it's crazy to think, but I mean, I think they really kind of take it to Ohio State game 1 has been kind of my gut feeling, which is crazy to say, but
I can't wait till we get predictions get into predictions for that for week 1. There's a lot of games in that one. This year feels wide open in college football, which is why I think when we talk about the narrative of whether Georgia's being overlooked, I think that's why there is a little bit of hesitancy to put them below where they've traditionally been, which is in the top tier, among the top tier of teams. Like they're still in tier 1 for the most part, it seems, but they're not the apex predator of that tier 1 going into this year. Look at that, use a new word. I'm curious in terms. I think my biggest question with Georgia, and it's been the biggest question I think over the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's can they finally have the injury bug go their way? Over the last 2 or 3 years, just it feels like they've had mass amounts of injuries, more than they've had in previous years. Can they finally have it to a point where it's more manageable? Last year, you were without an offensive line. I think they played, 13 different rotations of their offensive line? It's somewhere in the double digits. Played several different rotations of their offensive line. That's several offensive line not practiced during the week and then go in on Sundays or Saturdays and have to play. Can they keep that manageable? Can they keep their best players on the field? Because as we all know, the depth across the board in college football is not what it used to be.
I agree even more so the year before. Can your key pieces stay healthy? I mean, it's going to sound homerish. It's a Georgia podcast. Sue me. I'm not sure you roll into the SEC championship with a fully healthy Ladd McConkey and a fully healthy Brock Bowers. I'm not sure you lose that game by 3. I'm not sure you can convince me that the 2 of them are not worth enough points to win that football game. That's a big if. Alabama won, period. I get it. But if you're talking about health, if you're talking about a team that maybe has had the unluckiness of health, 2 of your star players go down late in the season like that, and it just kind of fizzles out after a 12-0 season. I think that's what a lot of people forget about that team with Carson and everybody. Undefeated until the SEC championship game. Lost the SEC championship game by 3, and then, not sure if I can say this, molested Florida State in the bowl game. and you're at the point where, yeah, okay, you weren't that good though. Sorry, weren't good enough for the playoff, weren't good enough for any of that. Kind of a down year by Georgia standards. So you only lost one game by 3 points. Anyways.
And really, just really made it through that season. Like it was, talk about boring. I mean, there were some of those games in the middle of that stretch were just boring, where Georgia was just so much better than everybody else. And I think, well, you weren't part of this show back then, but a lot of the conversation that we had was they just looked uninterested in a lot of football games. They would still beat the other team handily, but it wasn't like they didn't have that anger to them where they would beat a team like 65-7 or like that. I mean, they did eventually, but it was kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know.
It took a little bit. I think what we talked about, I don't know if we've ever talked more than 23 than the word like they were controlling games. They just controlled games, which is something I want to see them get back to in 2025, even if that means
Saban would do it too, though.
Yeah.
Saban, I mean, he was. I mean, where did Kirby learn that from? I mean, it's just get the game under control and then just coast.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did 50 minutes. I said we did we would do about 40 minutes on Georgia and all that. I think we're close to it. Before we end the show for week 0, we're bringing back our picks. We're bringing back the pick competition. Kobe versus Dan. I wish I had the record from last season. I want to say Kobe played pretty well in the weeks that we had it. I don't know who had the best record. I'll have to go see. I have to see if I can track that down somewhere. I think it's on a note.
Dude, I won everything last year. So, I mean, on Robert's show, I whooped everybody's ass. So,
Kobe?
Wait, I'm going to have to get Robert pull that record up.
Oh, yeah. It was a boat race.
Maybe in the points, but I'm talking about I want it just clear-cut wins, losses. All the point stuff. I loved it. It made it interesting. It made it where you could really, if you got down bad, you could come back. But sometimes I just like the W's and the L's. That's all that matters.
Wire to wire is all I gotta say. Wire to wire.
This week's gonna be tough because there ain't many games. Like this week, you're gonna either get off to a just an insanely lucky start or an insanely unlucky bad start. Now we'll go first up. We'll go with a close line. Stanford travels to Hawaii for a 7:30 kick. Well, yeah. Hawaii is a -2.5 point favorite.
Really?
Well, Stanford lost their quarterback.
Shout out Juan Daniels.
Yes, sir.
See, I'm thinking I'll start us off hot here, Dan. I'm feeling like you fear the tree in Hawaii.
Listen, I don't know anything about either one of those teams this year, and just to be different than Kobe, I'm going to be like, surf's up, baby. Let's go Hawaii. Rainbow Warriors, son.
Love
Get
that.
it done.
Wait, did y'all both take Hawaii?
No, he just took Stanford.
Oh, Stanford. I
You
thought
said fear the tree, and I said surf's up.
Sorry. I had a blunder there. All right,
that's all right. One.
Kansas hosts Fresno State.
Yeah, give me the Jayhawks.
Yep, they're a 13-point favorite.
Rock chalk.
There we go. All right, last game. This one, y'all might actually legitimately split this. Kansas State, Iowa State. This is a noon kick over there in Dublin, Ireland. How many Guinnesses are y'all drinking watching this game?
0.
Dan, I know you're probably. Yeah, I was gonna say Dan doesn't drink. Kansas State is a 3-point favorite.
I'm going Cyclones.
Gosh.
Ooh, Rocco Beck over here.
Just since it's week 0. Right, we'll play them opposites this week. I'll go Kansas State. So it's just 3 games, week 0.
Yeah, just 3 games to start. I want it so y'all can have a winning record or a losing record. I don't want it 1-1. We can't play 500 ball here on the Top Talk podcast. We either got to be a winner or we got to be a loser. So we will keep standings. I just put the picks for each one on the note sheet. We will keep the records for all season long and see who wins this competition. Between Dan, who apparently never loses, and Kobe, who feels overlooked. Very much like Georgia this year. So, anyways, folks, that's going to do it for the Top Dog Talk podcast. I'm Harrison Reno. That's Dan Kiley. That's Kobe Piers. We will be back next week live at 7:30. Assuming I am not elsewhere, I will be here. If not,
Me and Kobe will
Boys
be here.
will run it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be two of
So-
us in at least.
Yeah, at least two of us.
Yeah.
We'll see which two, but we're banking on 3. Football's back, boys. Georgia football's almost back. We got pressers with Kirby Smart Monday and Tuesday next week to kick off the week versus Marshall. Yeah. With that being said, let me pull up Dan's cue. Here we go.
No dog. Oh, Kobe,
dog.
yeah. No dog.